Welcome to the Starting Over podcast. I am your host, Edward Shelton, aka Dark Logos, and this is the show where we look at the strategies, tactics, and mechanics behind the game of heroclix. It's September 2nd when I'm recording this, and sadly, no one has emailed me on the Kurth. So sad. So, Kurth is definitely not up, since we definitely didn't get to the hit counts. But oh well, maybe on my next giveaway, that will happen. Anyway, it's warm here in Kansas City. It's currently 11 a.m. as I am recording this. Not quite top of the hour, but good enough. It is pretty warm, as you can detect by the fan blowing in the background, yet not warm enough for me to turn the air conditioner on. So, yeah, that may be happening and right after I finish recording. Alright, well, I hope you enjoyed the Gen Con interviews. I know that it was 5 hours of a lot of stuff and me repeating myself now and then, but I do appreciate you listening to all of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about game design, and I'm going to talk about how it relegates to heroclix. And initially I had recorded a show and I was talking about a couple of elements, and then I realized how negative I was coming across and really how bitter I was coming across after all was said and done. And after reading a thread on HC Realms, what magical thread was that? So how did everybody's first spiral experience go? And reading through that, it made me realize some things. And the first of which is, if you want a negative opinion or a negative interaction, just go to HC Realms General Discussion. Because if you don't agree with the forum regulars there, and your consensus isn't there, then yeah, they're going to run pretty much just beat you up. I was going to say something else and I realized what type of show I am. And so because of that, it's not necessarily folks stating their point, it's the folks just stating their point with crass and snarkiness, and I don't really like that. So that's just the best way of putting it. But I started to realize that the show was starting to become like that. So we're going to take a step back and we're going to look at game design. We're going to look at some important things that have been said on the record, and get to a little bit of my off-air conversation with MB Perp. Nothing that's really like, oh my gosh, he told you the secret sauce to KFC. Nothing like that, and I don't think it would be anything abusive of our conversation. But I'm not even going to go into most of the things that I think would be questionable, but just mainly a few elements that I think we just need to touch on. And pretty much it's going to go like this. If we are to look at the game of heroclix, what sort of game is it, and what type of game do we want it to be? So what type of game is it, and what type of game we want it to be? And the main reason this is sort of the angle of the topic of today is, first off, let's be honest. There's a level of guided interaction from WizKids. They try to set it up sort of like Brave New World, where there's a program, everything's set, and you know they would like to see certain things, and they have certain elements that go according to program. Now, you as the common person don't know what the program is, but you are operating in it, you are taking part in it, You are a cog in this machine, and you will turn as a cog does. And I know some people might say, well, Edward, that's very derogatory, but I mean, it's the reality. As long as you play this game, there are designs in which we can't get past, and mechanics in which most players won't get past, that purely benefits the machine, which is WizKids being profitable, WizKids maintaining whatever relationships they want to maintain. Okay. The next element that sort of kicks in is what you, the players, say you play reflects back on how WizKids act. So you can go take the Jurassic Park mindset of no matter how good the program is, nature finds a way and something crazy happens. Just like when talking with MB Perf, he was like, Gen Con is the time for players to break the game. So that lets us understand that the rest of the time when playing is going on, that's supposed to have a certain normative tone, that there's a certain level of regulation, that hey, guess what, things are going to go as planned. This one instance we see things not going as planned, and so to make sure that everything gets back on program, we take notes on Gen Con, we analyze teams on Gen Con, and then we come back and try to get everything back onto program. And so that's part of our struggle, being on program and then the abnormalities that take us off of program. Now, how does that come back to us in our meta play and this, that, and the other? Okay, pure and simple. When you, the player, and through whatever media fashion that you like, gives feedback and say, I had a great time playing my X-Men, and I did this, and I did that, and then it was great having all the X-Men together on the team base, and then I was able to pull off Wolverine when I wanted to, then I was able to pull off Colossus when I wanted to, and then I was able to do this, and then Cyclops Blast number 5, and then blah, 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 blah. Like the 5-year-old geeky kid inside of you. Game design's like, yes, they played it and they liked it. Let's make more of that. Okay? If you say, I hate the fact that, I got hit by 15 attacks before I could actually do anything, and the game was over, it felt like I got mugged in a dark corner somewhere in LA. Okay, game design, like, okay, dark corner mugging, blah. Now, note, the, hey, I like this, blah, 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 always gets responded to and gets more love than, hey, I got beat up and mugged in this dark alley. And you can sort of tell that by how long it's taken them to fix hypersonic speed. Just period. Okay? And this is sort of looking at how the game is. Alright. Hypersonic speed has been around for so long, yet through all its just versions, and it having a certain flavor to be maintained, it just doesn't get fixed. And they try and it's just not enough. And they try something else and it doesn't quite work. And then they're just like, bam, Nerf hammer. And if you really look at the changes to hypersonic speed, the most significant changes to hypersonic speed happen because game design failed to really recognize their own flaw in Icon Superman. Now note, for those people that do play in venues of that allow Golden Age and whatnot, how many times do you see Icon's Vet Superman out? Not that much, really. Not anymore. Back in the day, he was so broken, he caused the rules to be errated. So, Vet Icon Superman forced the change on hypersonic speed. Why? Because the cacophony of this is broke and I can't do anything was so loud that they had to make a change, or else the game would have been over. I mean, he already did. So actually, he did sort of rule for 2 years when he was out. He oh gosh, he won some Wizard Worlds. But the thing that it becomes a big deal is game design doesn't really fix what's broken. They try to make other things better so that people can maintain their norm. Now note, that's not like a pun on MB Perp or anything. It's just a statement. Okay, so anyway, as powers are there to be buffed and worked around, no one really says, well, maybe, just maybe, we shouldn't be giving steroids to chickens to make them bigger. Maybe we should just have people eat regular chickens. And then the other person's like, no. Buffer chickens means more money. And people want buff chickens. So we're going to keep feeding people buff chickens. And it's like, oh, wow. Yeah, you're right. We do get more money if we buff chickens. And so that's why we keep getting powers buffed more so than powers debuffed. Because if someone said, here's a skinny, thin piece of chicken, and here's a big, juicy piece of chicken, and they both cost the same on your end, they both cost the same, which are you going to eat? You're going to eat the big, juicy piece of chicken. You may not know that big, juicy piece of chicken is a mutant chicken that's pumped full of steroids and antibiotics and mutagen. You know, he had 3 other brothers that he hanged out with, and he knew kung fu from a supersized cricket that was nearby. That you don't know that. You just see a big, juicy piece of chicken. Okay, same thing when you look at your heroclix. When you compare your classic figures to your newer figures, it's like farm raised natural chicken, steroid mutagen chicken with your new stuff. So anyway, I sort of digress. But as we see with the program is mainly designed for you to buy, for you to enjoy your pieces briefly and then move forward. Okay, the Golden Age championship experiment, I think that's going to be interesting for a while, just for a while. I think eventually it will hit, for a lack of a better word, this apex in which a combo will be made, and that is only viable in Golden Age, that eventually WizKids will have to create a figure to address in Modern Age that has no other purpose but to deal with something in Golden Age, because they need to keep people coming to the Golden Age event. So that's something I do see that will be forthcoming. Anyway, sort of, seeing that it's about, hey, you going out there and buying more clicks because we give you a juicy piece of chicken. Eventually, there's only so much steroids that a chicken can take before it explodes or expires before it's profitable. And so I'm not going to say, yes, we are at the pre-exploding chicken stage. That's not exactly true. We are at the wow, we're noticing that they're starting to fall over just a little bit more stage. They can't stand up stage. They can't use the restroom properly stage. I think that's about where we're at. But to get things fixed, you were talking about a massive depowering that would be required, and in the interim time, game design would lose I would say about 80 to 90% of what they're planning. Just in general, they're going to lose that. And I know some of you might be saying like, wow, the fan got louder. Yeah, I had to pause recording, move the fan, and some other stuff just because of some logistics here. So I'm leaning into the microphone a little bit more, hopefully to compensate over how loud the fan is. If it's too loud, let me know. Leave it in the comments below. We might be able to redact history somehow using magical sound negation or something. I don't know. Maybe if I play the sound of the fan backward or something, it might do something. I don't even know. Anyway, so how we play the game and what we buy generates game design sort of, okay, we're keeping everything on program. They might not buy this because of characters, but they'll buy this because of mechanics. They might not buy this because of mechanics, but they'll buy this because of characters. And I would say Wolverine and the X-Men is a prime example. People love some X-Men, and they love X-Men storylines and getting some of their classic X-Men characters again. And it's not an X-Men set without Cyclops and Wolverine and Jean Grey, I mean, in some form or fashion. Okay, so people love that because they get their favorite characters, and they get to have fun with their favorite characters again, and in a modern age setting, because their venue doesn't play Golden on a consistent basis because they think Golden is broken, or that more evil things come out in Golden or something. I don't know. And so they're happy because they're able to play whatever figures that they want to play. So that in and of itself, creates some interesting situations, because what happened is even though we might complain that, oh, blah blah blah, this is the devil, blah blah blah, until you stop buying and convince your friends, and several other people convince their friends to stop buying, those trends will continue, and game design won't change anything. And if you listen to MB Perp, he said, hey, look, you can say the game's dying and that we're killing heroclix all you want, but we had more people at Gen Con than previous years. We filled up all our events. You can't say that they're failing. And if you look at, again, WizKids as a business first, then they're doing what their business needs. So that's something that we can look at. What guides the meta? Your wallet guides the meta. How you're playing guides the meta. And what game design wants to bring in to balance the force guides the meta. So that affects how things currently are. And if you look back, and I'm going to go and I'm going to give MB Perp the benefit of the doubt. And like I said, everything that he said on the show previously was true, because he has no reason to lie. Definitely if something else to the contrary comes out later, he has no reason to lie. And I don't think he's to quote HC Realms lingo, I don't think he's a dink. Okay, is that Heroes for Hire was tested before Teen Titans. So what that means most likely is Ghost Rider was tested as Ghost Rider, and Ghost Rider with Heroes for Hire was also tested, and then that means that they knew what Ghost Rider could do before we knew what Ghost Rider could do. Now, for another element that becomes interesting is they knew what the cop car could do with the GCPD ATA as well before we knew what the cop car could do. Now, while they might say, well, our main goal was to make it so that we can, when you had all of those different police officers out there, to make an easy way of dispersing them. I'm like, well, yeah, that does create easy ways of dispersing them. You made Gordon, so I mean, you sort of made things that complement Gordon. But really, what it comes down to is you said, all right, we want to have something that helps all of them, but we also know that these strong factors that people lean to when playing this will also become exponentially stronger. Now, what I think they didn't see is the fact that ATA shouldn't have been wild cardable and combined with Lex Luthor and a utility belt, and it becomes ridiculously strong. So I don't think they saw that. Okay? But what I do think what is going on is game design is making a set, and let's say the Heroes of 1,000 Legions is going to be featured in the next indie set. And don't worry, I made them up, so don't think there's some obscure comic book or whatever. Okay, so a Hero of 1,000 Legions coming out. So they play tested all the major characters of a Heroes of 1,000 Legions, and I also think at the same time they make an ATA. And then they play around with it, and then they tweak it some more, and then they decide if they're going to put it out or not, and they'll sit on it. But I don't think after the conversation with MB Perp, I don't think that we can say, oh, the ATAs are made independently from the figures themselves when they're designed. I don't think so. Even when I look at Young Justice with Young Justice figures, I'm like, I could sort of see how that would help them. Definitely if you're looking at Secret to rally your team at the end. Yeah. Or you know, Superboy. Like, I can see how some of these elements come out in which they're like, well, hey, I think this figure needs this. Okay, several of those figures from that team need this. Let's give them this. Oh, okay, cool. We'll put that in the ATA. All right, great. Check the box. And so they're like, well, we know this is going to ship this way. People are going to be frustrated. And so since people are going to be frustrated, the first thing that we want to see is how people react and respond. And then, since we already have a good guess on how they're going to react and respond, when we put out these ATAs, we're going to be looked at as brilliant. When in actuality, we already knew this was going to happen, and we were just holding our delivery method. We were just holding our payload. And so things become a little bit different. Now you can say, that's great intent, that's bad intent. I'm not here to argue intent. That's not fair. Okay, because I can't prove intent. I can't prove that there's, you know, some racist guy or a maleficent, you know, guy, you know, behind WizKids holding hostage or petting the ATAs. I don't know. Okay, I have no clue why it takes so long for ATAs to come out sometimes. No clue, not speculating. Okay, but they are fully aware when they release something. Oh yeah, there's ATA coming. Like, I will mark my words. Mark my words. There's an X-Men ATA coming, and there's probably an X-Force or an X-Factor. No, there's already X-Force ATA. So there's going to probably be an X-Factor ATA. Mark my words. Come back to this episode in a couple of months, 5 to 6 months, and be like, dang it, Dark Logos, you were right. There was an X-Men ATA, and you know what? It allows them to heal for free. And you know what, Dark Logos? Not only it allows them to move out for 2 squares. You know, they all get sidestepped. You know, something like that. You know, I bet it's more likely, you know, either they would get +1 to leadership, to a leadership role for how many people are within line of fire of the leadership person, or the highest character automatically gets leadership, or it's going to give them free healing. They can heal for free as a free action, or more so like built-in Cyclops ability, just get +1 when they heal with X-Men TA. And there goes my phone again, and I apologize. But anyway, when we come back to game design, and we come back to what the future is holding, the best thing that we can do is say, hey, how will the future pan out? Now the best way for us to put it like that is, if game design operates from a downfield version. They say a downfield vision. If they say, hey, guess what? We're going to unravel this yarn ball slowly and then create a situation in which they'll see the long thread, but they don't know how many colors that the yarn thread's going to turn to. And when it turns into that last color, they're going to be like, ah, that's awesome! And then we'll give them a new ball of yarn. Okay? And that's how game design is looking at it. We, on the other hand, are sitting there looking at the every millimeter of unraveled yarn and looking at the previous, batch of yarn and saying like, oh my gosh, what is going on here? Are they crazy? Don't they know that color and that other color don't look well together? Man, didn't you know like the best time for colors was when we saw that super cool green near the beginning of the line? Man, what's up with Whiz Kids? They don't know how to unravel yarn. Okay? That's our perspective. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a live experiment. And by live, I mean I'm going to do this real time, and you're going to hear my real time thoughts while I do this. What we're going to do is we're going to take a section in time, and I'm going to go blue with my unit section, and I am going to go back, way back. Alright, let me try to see something. Alright, here we go. We're going to go to Arkham Asylum. Now you're going to say, Dark Logos, why are you going to go there? Because I think that's like the perfect part of saying what's the cutoff point and what game design's long view was. Okay? So we go look at Arkham Asylum, and we have to say why look at Arkham Asylum, because mainly Hammer of Thor was already designed. So Hammer of Thor was already going to reflect back on Arkham Asylum. Alright? So we got to keep that in mind. Alright? So we can look at Arkham Asylum, and what can we notice? We see a good amount of minion characters. We see some 10s starting off, a little bit more than we may care to admit. A lot of 9s, a lot more special powers. Not only that, we're starting to see like, hey man, you got funky energy explosion. You have this weird perplex thing. What's up with you combining hypersonic speed and flurry? Damage is sort of low, but that's okay. Cost a little high. I got perplex. It's all good. What do you mean I have brilliant tactician into my character and it doesn't really require me to have same keywords as that character? Oh, that's awesome. Wow, how do I have 15 different support powers on my dial and they call me a new god? Like you're seeing things like that. Our first round of really silliness of Nightcrawler was seen in Despero. I know people are like, what a Despero? How is that? Okay, well, I'm clicking on Despero, waiting for him to load. Okay, Despero is 88 points. Nightcrawler is 86 points. Okay, Despero has a 6 range. Nightcrawler has 0 range. If you look at the total swing minus TK of Nightcrawler and of Despero, they are almost exactly the same. Okay, Despero can use mind control and telekinesis. He has dangerous game. Despero can use psychic blast. Give Despero a power action and choose a target opposing character 6 or fewer squares from Despero to which he can draw a line of fire, put the target in a square of clear unoccupied terrain 8 or fewer squares from Despero to which he has a clear line of fire. Technically, it's from Despero's line of fire, not from where that character is. He can actually place a character farther away than Nightcrawler can. But was there outrage about Despero? No, because he didn't fit into the meta at the time. Despero has barrier. Despero has leadership and outwit. Despero, by far, is a bit more broken than Spider-Man. I mean, not Spider-Man, than Nightcrawler. Why did I say Spider-Man? Oh, wow. Okay. But again, in the look at me, I do a bazillion damage. Look at me, charge, full move charge, and pick up a heavy object. Folks didn't see that coming. Okay, so sort of taking that step back, we look at Despero. We see an element which no one complained about. No one said this is the broke swords in the ends of the world. Blah 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 blah. And then some of you might even say, but Dark Logos, Nightcrawler can hit stealth people. Fine. But Dark Logos, Nightcrawler can hit people with hand TA and other TAs that operate like that. That's purely fine. But when it comes to swing, Despero has a way larger swing. And you can TK Despero, and he just has to do his little range combat attack. They both have to attack to hit to get their shenanigan done. Both. Okay? So, sort of coming back is like, okay, we look at Arkham Asylum. We see the blueprints for Nightcrawler. The issue is we're dealing with structural integrity field in a barrier meta. Okay? And really, we wouldn't have had that barrier structural integrity field meta if it wasn't for the fact if game design just admitted that they were wrong. Or just saying, no, this only works on printed map walls. That's it. That's all they had to do was eat some crow. And then everyone would have liked them. But no, because they didn't eat crow, we get Hammer of Thor, and we get Captain America. Yeah, Captain America. So Captain America is just like, we're taking you to an outdoor map, son. Avengers, assemble! Throw that shield! Shield slash! Shield slash! Stars and stripes! Bad Marvel vs. Capcom impersonations right there. But that's pretty much how we got Captain America being what he was, or Smoky Cap. Okay, but let's go back and be fair. If we start looking at the stats, we're seeing that 10, 17, we're seeing some 11s. Moonstone is sort of scaring us a little bit. 10 attack, Psychic Blast. Like, hold up, what's going on here? But we're seeing most defenses around the 17. Okay, starting off. We do see 18s. We do see some defenses that are lower. But we're not seeing this crazy, oh wow, 11 attack, 19 defense, 5 damage as a bunch of common things. Okay. So if we keep moving down and we want to say like, hey, what's game design's big plan? And we'll be fair. Let's cut our snapshot off at Web of Spider-Man. When we get to Web of Spider-Man, the snapshot will be cut off. Actually, we'll take it to Superman. Okay. So Hammer Thor brings all this massive pain because we want people to be excited about the game again, and we're trying to get some deeper stuff. Alright, there we go. Then we move on to Brave and the Bold. And this is where fan feedback shapes, I would say, a little bit to I think it probably shapes GSX. Probably. So we're going to deal with Brave and the Bold, okay? And Brave and the Bold, the biggest element that we see is they sort of double down on wanting to have more thematic lineups. They were trying to double down on using duos and trying to make things marketable of, look, we are bringing everything back with an vengeance. And so people started to complain. The first major complaint is the amount of releases. Since, Brave and the Bold was really, really, it came out maybe a bit too long after Thor, but they had to, test the waters. Plus, they had to develop it. The other thing, just tech-wise, just quickly skimming, is they were trying to make things moderately powerful. And they didn't really were trying to make too many things really, really super powerful. For example, when we look at Etrigan, what was the guy he AEs from? Oh yeah, AEs premiered in Brave and the Bold. So that was the other thing that they were trying to get done, is to have these transform mechanics. But anyway, Jason Blood. Jason Blood is okay, but you have to push him and push him and push him and push him so that he can get to Etrigan. But special objects, my friend, when you put him on top of a phone booth and grind him down and force him to collect calls that seem to not go anywhere, he gets really angry really fast, and he turns into the evil Etrigan. And so Etrigan gives us our first example of perplexing probability control. Now note, we're looking at perplexing probability control being on a single character that initially, with Jason Blood, if I can find him, here we go. Jason Blood, number 10, costs 44 points. That is 6 points less. 6 points less than our Scarlet Witch. And he has Mystics. Okay? So, what's the big deal here? So why is Scarlet Witch broken and Jason Blood wasn't broken? Well, for the time, Jason Blood was expensive for prob because it was cheaper prob. Also, we're looking at a situation as well. The meta really didn't allow him to be too abused until we get to that Gen Con. Okay, and then we see some things come up that are quite interesting. But also the other bone that George Masu sort of showed us that was there was Shazam in Black Adam, but mainly the Shazam part of the dial, that being played. But we can see that Brave and the Bold, and combined with everything else that was coming, its main goal was to make us interested in heroclix, but also try to give us a lot of cheap fill-in pieces. Okay? Because, hey, if we look at Web of Spider-Man and DC 75th and GSX, there were a whole lot of big hitters. But let's move on. Web of Spider-Man really just boiled down to cramming cheap guys onto your team, and if you were going to be Team Nightcrawler or Team Bullseye. I hate to boil it down to that. But what was Nightcrawler in response to? Oh, look. He was in response to something that happened way back that wasn't resolved. Okay? He was there to fix that. And because of how absurd Nightcrawler is, we had to make Bullseye so that his absurdity wouldn't continue. Okay? And in part, if you think about it, because WizKids started to recognize we can't just be making figures that gives Bullseye's powers over and over again. And so people have access to get Bullseye or a Bullseye-like figure. Let's just make Precision Strike, and that fixes the issue. Oh my gosh! Godzilla Revelation! Precision Strike was designed so that we could kill Nightcrawler without playing Bullseye. But anyway, I digress. So we look at Web of Spider-Man. We see a lot of low-cost figures, a lot of high attacks and moderate damage. Your Novar, your not necessarily Norman Osborn, because I mean, he A's into Green Goblin and Iron Patriot, and Iron Patriot is suck, and Green Goblin is awesome, but you see like your Victor Manchas and a few other characters that are pretty good. If you looked at Victor Mancha now, you're like, why would I play that piece of trash? He's horrible. You know, look, he can't take an alpha strike from a cop car, or a team base. He's dead, and he's almost a third of my team. Blah. You know, Novar, you're like, oh my gosh. You know, yes, his attack values are awesome, but once he gets hit, he's not that great. You know, I mean, whatever. You know, you could take wherever it is for however you want it. But when you really look at the figures, we're looking at an investment of more clicks, and so we're dealing with a little bit more clicks, and so our stats overall are lower stats so that they can stay consistent. Okay, so that's our lessons from Web of Spider-Man. When we go to Brightest Day, and I know I skipped Blackest Night, but that was just fanboyism, and Watchmen was as well. When we get to Brightest Day, we're like, hey, look, guys, all that. Actually, I think Brightest Day came out a little bit later. But anyway, but DC 75th and Brightest Day, I'll sort of clump them together. But what we see is with Brightest Day, it's like, hey, popping people around the map. This is the first time that we've really got introduced to the concept of, and I know people are going to say like, oh my gosh, I didn't see it until now, Bat Signal and Cape Crusader. And people are like, well, what's that? Dead Man. But Dead Man is expensive, and Dead Man only works with a limited number of figures. Yes, but the concept did not get negative reviews. The concept didn't. And so when we have all these White Lanterns pop out in DC 75th, then it's like, oh my gosh, you know, wow, I can now pop White Lantern Sinestro from across the map back home. You know, it wasn't that big of a deal because White Lantern Sinestro and White Lantern Flash and maybe White Lantern, you know, Wonder Woman if you got her, or White Lantern Green Arrow, those are the only ones that are really worth anything, worth playing. Oh, I hate that Superman. But anyway, you have those guys and the gal, and they're just lighting everything up, but you're already playing a high points, and really at that stage of you lighting them all up, guess what? There's no reason for you to come back to your starting area because your opponent's dead. Your opponent's just dead. Okay, and so that puts us in a strange predicament because while that power of Bat Signals summon the white goodness is there, because of the offensive tools that was paired with, no one was like, this is broke. This is so broke that it's unstoppable. This concept shouldn't exist in the games at all. And then you're like, oh, but they killed me. They don't need to go back and heal, you know, or I died. I couldn't bring them back. Like, you know, when you look at what it's paired with, the complaint doesn't seem valid because you're like, forget the concept. We don't see the concept independent of the figures that's operating with. All right. So game design is setting us up for what we're seeing now. I move your guys around? Okay, I move my guys around all over the map? You can start to say this is the beginning of space not mattering as much in heroclix because of Dead Man. No one will ever say that. They're going to be like, no, Nightcrawler really caused it to happen because Nightcrawler gets TK'd 5 times and then brings the opponent back. Nightcrawler's limit is his own maneuverability and his swing. That's it. Okay? That's it. But with Dead Man, there is no limitation. Okay? And there's no limitation. And I just want to make sure that I am not high when I say this. And let me rephrase that. I want to make sure that I am not wrong. Okay, yeah, Dead Man's not unique. He's not unique. Now, you might be hard for him to summon the white on, first few turns, but that's okay. He has time to push. He has time to push. Yeah, he has time to push. But yeah, when you go to DC 75th, you start to see some barrier. You start to see some cheaper figures. I like Ice. Ice is still one of the strongest figures from this set. Deadshot as well. He's still great. Johnny Quick making meta appearances for Gen Con for 2 years. So, he's really, really good. Warlord, he gets overlooked so much, but that's a whole different other subject. But overall, if we look at that set was setting us up for concepts that we saw later. I think that Hal Jordan has yeah, that whole I can pick a standard attack power. Now look really quickly at Hal Jordan, not Hal Jordan White Lantern, but Hal Jordan, the normal Green Lantern. If you look at his stats and look at his dial length, and you would say 169 points for that's a little absurd. But why are we saying that? Because of what it would have to survive in the current meta? Like, as it stands now, he could take 1 hit from Ghost Rider. 2 hits, that's not happening. But 1 hit, he could take it and live. But we do see this, okay? 1-man Justice League. Once during your turn as a free action, you may choose a standard attack power that no other character on your force can use. Hal Jordan can use that power until the beginning of your turn. Where do we see this, something similar to this later on? Oh yeah, Hal gets it again, except he can name any standard attack power without limitations. So we've been set up. We've been prepared. We've been on program. It's just that we're not looking at our history and saying, oh, yeah, we've been on program. Another example, look at Lila and then look at Slip Lip, and then you Split Lip, and you'll realize that they're pretty much the same thing. Oh, I paid for a very expensive little pack thing so that I can get cheap enhancement that is unique and that does something for my team that normally I can't do. Oh wow, that's pretty much what they both do. We're being fed the same stuff over and over again. Okay, so we go to GSX, we get some absurdities. We get the Magneto, na you can't shoot me from there. We get the copy team abilities from Cypher. Cypher's, even though Cypher gives us to the whole team, but we heard complaints, but we didn't hear enough complaints of, this is hecka broke. Okay, and more people loved it than hated. And hey, I will not lie, I've ran 3 Cyphers before in a large point game, and when you have Mystics, PD, and X-Men, life is sort of good on everybody. Just saying. But if we look at the concept of Cypher, Cypher is cheap perplex. That's really all he is cheap perplex, and gives you those team abilities, and then he turns into this super mega hitter later. But what we have been trained to think is, my support is 3 clicks, and this is the beginning of the training of that mindset. This is the beginning in GSX of us seeing the shrinking of the dials, and it's not by a lot. It's a boil the frog. We're seeing more 7s. Lot more 7 life figures, and a lot of people will be like, oh man, Dark Logos, you're right, I didn't really think about that. We are seeing a lot more 7s. Okay, we're seeing figures come in as support in that 50 to 60 point range, sometimes a mid 70s, and we are being trained to think that this is what my support should cost. But we're still trying to remember that we still have Web of Spider-Man in play, and we still have Hammer of Thor in play. We still have these consistent concepts. But what they're moving us towards is, hey, support's going to cost you a little bit more in the future. Hey, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to jump over Green Lantern and the Fast Forces for Thor, just for the pure fact they offered very few things to the meta that actually panned out. I mean, they tried to present the idea with Green Lantern of, hey, look, Green Lantern Army, and that didn't really go as well as they thought. And I think that was the grand experiment. Now, money-wise, they made buku money. In meta-wise, it was like, let's see what we can do. And I don't even think that those sets were on program. Okay? I think those sets were just here, this is an experiment. Fast forward to Captain America, and what do we see in Captain America? We see the new golden ratio, the 10-18, show up a little bit more in the 9-17. We also go back and we see a bunch of cheap figures that do 3 damage and a lot of damage reduction, or 2 damage and they're not that great. We very rarely see a lot of just crazy move and attack. We don't see a lot of oh, look at me, I'm all over the map, minus Quasar and Maelstrom. MODOK is rather balanced. I hate to say it like that, but MODOK is rather balanced when you look at what he can do in the comparison to the rest of the set. Because pretty much he is a attacker that also is a support piece. That's pretty much it. He's an attacker and he's also a support piece because he has leadership in Hydra. His main goal is positioning. Dirk Anger is sort of there to say, hey, guess what? You know, I'm going to do some cool things against you, and this is WizKids trying to say, hey man, we have a grasp of this meta thing that's been bugging you for a while. Check out Dirk Anger. We know you've been having problems with those Thunderbolt ATAs and that scroll BS on Miss Marvel. So check out, we got Dirk Anger for you, baby. Come on. There you go. And that set up the grand pedestal for Nick Fury and a few others to pilot their ship from. But anyway, Dirk Anger is there. Why? He is there to provide support. He is there to knock out an element in the meta that was causing the problems at the time, ATAs, and then say, hey, look, for all of that I do, I'm still here. Now, Dirk Anger is technically the father of Aldrich Killian, except Dirk Anger sort of sucks and Aldrich Killian is really, really good. But again, with the major concept, there were some complaints, but it wasn't full outrage. It wasn't like, this is broke, blah, 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 blah. Okay? So, anyway, as we progress, the attachables get introduced here, and how dumb that is. The countdown stuff, which I thought was excellent, has yet to be readdressed or come back to, which is sad. So, moving forward, and I'm skipping all that Lord of the Rings stuff. Yeah, Hobbit, Star Trek, blah, 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 blah. Okay, here we go. New meta shift. And we arrive at Superman, and this is where we're going to cut it. Okay? Superman introduces to us in the game 4 damage for cheap. 4 plus damage for cheap. This is the major shift. We're seeing, we saw 100 plus point characters before. Okay? That it's like, alright, whatever. We beat those up. Those only come out on some of our big games. Or if they are 150 points or more, then we have a good crew of 3 or 4 characters solid, and we can go and fight a nice 300 point game. Superman said, son, screw all that. Man, 4 characters. Oh no, we are going to rout you with 2 or 3 characters. And so Superman opened up this, hey, check this out, I do 6 damage because I have super strength and hypersonic speed. I do 7 damage. I do tons of penetrating damage. I heal when you cry at night. You know, I heal when you cry at night. Oh gosh. What's the guy's name? I bigged up him so much. Oh, he was part of the Elite. And probably some people like, you should remember him, Dark Logos. You should remember all figures that you've talked about on the show and in great detail. And I'm like, if that was only the case. And I know he's not a super rare. He had like the British flag on his chest. And people would be like, Dark Logos, why don't you just pause the show and then pretend that you know? No, I want you to see my struggles. I am a mortal man. I am a mortal man. Lucy Lane, Parasite, Manchester Black. Wow. Okay, so no, Boiling the Frog. Manchester Black has 7 clicks, but he also has a way of sort of healing himself a little bit too. That's the one that heals when you cry because you KO'd. You got figure KO'd. But Eradicator, 7 clicks. You know, Project Superman is 8 clicks, but Project Superman sucked. He sucked so hard. But mostly we're starting to see the beginning of Boiling of the Frog. Oh wow, Libra, 7 clicks. Well, I think Wildfire is 7 clicks too. Yep, Wildfire, 7 clicks. And so all that good Captain America jazz that we saw, that died. That died hard. And people complain because the Captain America figs could not fight on par for the points any of the Superman figs whatsoever. Like the Superman set just took a big hammer to the face to Captain America and said, we are the worthy, and we pick up your hammers too, Marvel. Sunboy is probably the paramount example of that, and the main reason I say that is, what do we see? We see the first example of, no, it's not the first example, but we see the most cost-efficient example of Novar for DC, which is Psychic Blast and Pulse Wave. And I think Novar had running shot, Psychic Blast, Pulse Wave, Incap, and something else on top of his whole stat mod thing. But now we're seeing, with similar point cost, similar range to Novar, a team ability that is way more flexible. Novar Light. And Novar Light does the job really good. Really, really good. Running shot, Pulse Wave, 3 damage. Running shot, Psychic Blast. You know. We see Silver Banshee, which no one talks about. She's so strong, but no one will talk about her. And even now, no one's going to talk about her. And she's ridiculously good, but she doesn't fit the metas. But anyway, we see the beginning of big damage, just big attack numbers, big damage numbers. Now, I'm ending there, and you would say, like, go look at Hulk, and then the Infinity Gauntlet, then Galactic Guardians comes out, and blah, 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 and then we see this huge curve. We see the curve leaning toward big characters, so my sentence makes more sense. But what Superman sets us up for is, because we have shorter dials, higher attacks and higher damage means quicker games. That means that if my opponent misses and I hit, I can win, versus there's this constant exchange going on. Okay? So you might be saying at the end of this, okay, so Dark Logos, what is this grand picture that you want us to see? And in this year of looking at heroclix, and here's what it is. I'm going to assume that game design, starting where I started, had a vision for the game and where they wanted it to go. And if you look at how everything progressed, all of the old powers that we didn't complain about before, because the meta shifted in a different way, that were really strong, but we failed to recognize it, are now being brought up in the current meta as broke, because the current as the past counterbalances no longer exist. And let's be honest. In the fadeaway, no one noticed. No one noticed that the elements that removed all of those past teams as great faded away. And so when we look back and we see, hey, all our framework for Nightcrawler has been there. All our framework for Scarlet Witch has been there. All our framework for Ghost Rider being absurd is there. All our framework for, I hate to say it, for Colossals is there. If you want to see the vision of game design as the architects see it, as best as you can, go back two years in clicks and do it for yourself. Just go through figures and start to say, wow, all right, and start marking off characters in each of your panels and just say, like, okay, these are characters that I thought were good at the time. And then start comparing them to a set later on and then say, wow, those characters that I thought were good 2 years ago or a year and a half ago are now completely obsolete because of something else that came out. And then you have to actually take a pinch of paranoia and a pinch of precaution and say, maybe this was planned for the entire time. And then you would have to then say, well, what's the intent of that? And I would say the intent is for you to buy. The intent is for you to buy. And I hate to say fun is circumstantial, and that would be insulting. But I would say the intent is for you to buy. All right then. This show has probably gone way longer than what some people thought. I sort of realized I dropped the ball on the future element. Let me sort of give you the future analysis in my head. I think what's going to happen in a nutshell, and the vastness in the nutshell, is this: we are going to see powers that were overlooked in Captain America, probably Gears of War, maybe Halo, and we are going to see those powers repackaged and recycled and then put into modern age stuff, whether it's Marvel or DC, it doesn't matter. We're going to see that put into Marvel age stuff, and then from that you're going to be like, oh my gosh, this power is so broken. Yeah, it was broken when so-and-so from Gears of War did it, but we didn't all play Gears of War, so we didn't know it. You know, such and such was broken in Street Fighter, but their attack values were crap. You know, something along those lines is going to show back up, because WizKids has a tendency of recycling powers. You know, as MB Perp said before, everything that's happened before will happen again. And if that's an indicator, guess what? Looking to the past might actually be the best thing for us to determine how they're going to fix the future, or better yet, how are they going to address the future, and start placing our investment bets. So I think that since we are now at a place where the wheel of time is mimicking Fantastic Forces, in which space wasn't an issue with Lockjaw and Double Time. No, and I hate to say this, I'm gonna have my another moment of humility here. I did not realize that we have been in a meta before where space didn't matter. And that was the Lockjaw era of heroclix. Lockjaw with double time, you could carry whoever you needed to carry to the other end of the board, and that was all she wrote. You know, the fight was on. And if I look at it, and let me really look at it, because let's see, Lockjaw from Fantastic Forces. Okay, rookie Lockjaw is 24 points. So let's say I have 2. That's 48 points. Double time. Yeah, come on. I didn't know double time was one word. Why won't double time come up? Oh, there's a dash. Okay, double time, yeah, it's 5 points each. So 58 points, 2 Lockjaws. You could carry 2 of your largest characters on the map, on your team, downfield, and the fight can be on. That is way less than Spiral. Way less than Spiral. And those dolls can attack. Okay? So don't think of as I have 2 characters on the other end of the board. No. I have 4 characters on the other end of the board. And when the time comes, because Lockjaws have, I think they have permaphasing. I think so. Just a bit. Oh, excuse me. Hiccups. Lockjaws just about have permaphasing, all of them. Yeah. There's no way to get away. There is no way to get away. And then some people just say use vet or experienced Lockjaw. You can. But anyway, sort of going back. We've been in this place before. So the question is, dang hiccups. Yeah, this is me and my mortality really showing today. Is how did we deal with this before, and how can we take those lessons and project those into the future? So, all right, as I hiccup through the ending, thank you for listening. Twitter and freaking YouTube, I think they're going through a divorce right now. Because they don't want to talk to each other. So hit subscribe to know when my new shows are coming out. Also, you can follow me on Twitter at StartOverPod. It came from outer space somewhere, maybe the Twilight Zone, maybe the Dark Dimension. I don't know. I think it said hi to Cthulhu on its way out. You can email me at startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. If you wish to opine, keep it pithy, keep it interesting. Just keep it interesting. Tell me how your Fear Itself is going. And more importantly, what team bases are you looking for now? You know, I'm still sitting on the Excalibur team base, and I got an extra Shi'ar. Some things didn't go down as I thought, but hopefully I can sell the Shi'ar and the Shi'ar and the Excalibur here real soon. Last but not least, check out the blog, startingoverpodcast.blogspot.com. You can check out my Monday, Wednesday weekend musings as they come. And you don't have to worry about hiccups making me sound more ridiculous than my written print. Guests or ideas for the show, please hit me up on one of those mediums, so that you can give me ideas. And part this idea and hiccups getting worse. And ideas for the show came from Andrew. I hope I don't butcher your last name, man. Fetterspiel, because he worked at PopCap, and I had I saw that. I'm like, wow, you did game design at PopCap? That sounds pretty cool. And I realized, like, hey, I had this bitter game design moment. Let me look at this dude's Twitter feed, pretty positive Twitter feed. All right, let me restart from scratch. So, big up to him and his inspiration for today's episode. All right then, thank you very much for listening. And remember, we all got a hiccup sometime.
I'm into comic books, figures on the wall. She's into looking good, Vicky C's got a law. And she loves my flaws, yeah, she's not ashamed. I'm a Peter Parker, she's my Mary Jane. She's my Mary Jane, she's my Mary Jane. She's my Mary Jane, she's my Mary Jane. She's my Mary Jane, she's my Mary Jane. I'm a Peter Parker, she's my Mary Jane.
I'm a big nerd around her, but she's cool around me. Never knew how she found me. Electric, but she grounds me. And she loves my flaws, she accepts them all. When the darkness comes, I will get the call.
I will swing down to save her.